Maya hadn't felt her heart race like this in years, not since the accident that took her ability to walk and seemingly her ability to be seen. But now, staring at her phone screen at 2 in the morning, reading the words from someone who called himself Nightal22, she felt alive again. He understood her in ways no one else did. He knew her fears, her dreams, her late-night thoughts about whether she still mattered in a world that had moved on without her. What she didn't know was that the person making her feel whole again lived just 3 doors down, watched her wheelchair ramp being installed 2 years ago, and had been too afraid to introduce himself ever since. The irony of loneliness is that it can exist even in the most crowded spaces. Maya had learned this lesson well in the 2 years since the car accident that shattered her spine and, she believed, her future. Her small apartment in the bustling neighborhood of Riverside had become both sanctuary and prison. She worked remotely as a graphic designer, ordered groceries online, and had perfected the art of existing without truly living. The only place she felt free was in the digital world, particularly in an online forum for people who loved classic literature and late-night philosophical discussions. That's where she met him. And if you believe in second chances, in the power of connection, and in the magic of unexpected love, please hit that like button, leave a comment below. Share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means everything. Nightal22 had sent her a private message after she posted about feeling invisible. His message was simple but profound, telling her that the most beautiful souls are often the ones people overlook because they're too busy looking at surfaces. They started talking every night, sharing everything from their favorite Dostoevsky quotes to their deepest insecurities. He told her about his social anxiety, how he felt paralyzed in face-to-face interactions, how he watched life happen through windows instead of living it. She told him about her wheelchair, her fears, her feeling of being a burden. He never pitied her, never treated her differently. To him, she was just Maya, brilliant and funny and worth knowing. 3 months into their nightly conversations, Maya had fallen completely in love with someone she'd never seen. She knew it was dangerous, knew it might be foolish. But Nightal22 had given her something she thought she'd lost forever, the feeling of being chosen. He chose to spend hours talking to her when he could be doing anything else. He chose her thoughts, her words, her soul. She created an image of him in her mind, though they'd never exchanged photos. She imagined someone kind, someone gentle, someone whose eyes would light up when he laughed at her jokes the way his words seemed to dance across her screen. Meanwhile, just 3 doors down, Ethan Hayes sat in his apartment, his fingers hovering over his keyboard, trying to find the courage to tell Maya the truth. He'd been the neighbor who anonymously paid for half of her wheelchair ramp installation, claiming it was a community grant. He'd been the one leaving fresh flowers by her door every Sunday, never signing the notes. He'd seen her the day she moved in, watched her navigate her wheelchair with such grace and determination, and felt something shift in his chest. But his crippling social anxiety had kept him frozen, unable to knock on her door, unable to introduce himself like a normal person would. So he'd done what he always did. He retreated into the online world where words came easier, where he could be brave. When he found her profile in the literature forum, posting about Emily Dickinson and isolation, he knew it was fate giving him a second chance. He told himself he'd reveal the truth eventually, but every day that passed made it harder. How do you tell someone you've fallen in love with online that you've been watching them from a distance in real life? How do you explain that you're not a creep, just someone so broken by anxiety that online connection felt like the only safe way to love? The truth came out the way truth often does, through a series of small accidents that build into an unavoidable revelation. Maya had ordered a rare book online, a first edition of Jane Eyre she'd been hunting for months. When the package arrived, the delivery person left it at the wrong door, Ethan's door. He saw her name on the label and his heart stopped. He knew he should just take it to her, knock on her door, hand it over. But panic seized him. Instead, he messaged her as Nightal22, casually mentioning he'd just found a first edition of Jane Eyre at a local bookstore. Would she like him to send it to her? Maya's response was immediate and excited. She told him about the book she'd ordered, how it was being delivered that day, how she couldn't wait to hold it. Ethan felt the walls closing in. He tried to backtrack, tried to think of a way out, but there wasn't one. The next morning, gathering every ounce of courage he possessed, he walked to Maya's door with the package. His hands shook as he knocked. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might break through his chest. When Maya opened the door, she saw a man about her age with kind eyes, messy dark hair, and hands that trembled as he held out her package. He was wearing a t-shirt with a quote from Notes from Underground printed on it. The same quote Nightowl22 had sent her 2 nights ago, calling it his life philosophy. She stared at the shirt, then at his face, then back at the shirt. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Ethan watched the recognition dawn in her eyes. He watched her face cycle through confusion, realization, shock, and something he couldn't quite read. He wanted to run, wanted to disappear, but his feet had forgotten how to move. When he finally found his voice, it came out as a whisper. Laced with fear and hope in equal measure, he told her everything. About seeing her move in, about being too afraid to introduce himself, about finding her online and feeling like the universe was giving him a way to know her without the terror of face-to-face rejection. He told her about the ramp, the flowers, the countless times he'd stood outside her door wanting to knock but couldn't make his hand complete the motion. Maya sat in her doorway, her wheelchair positioned in the threshold between her apartment and the hallway, between her online world and her real one. She felt a storm of emotions, betrayal that he hadn't told her sooner, relief that he was real and not some fantasy that would eventually disappoint her, anger at the deception, understanding of the fear that drove it. She looked at this man who'd given her back her sense of worth, who'd made her feel seen when the rest of the world looked past her, and she saw not a stranger but someone who understood brokenness because he carried his own. The conversation that followed lasted 4 hours. They sat in her doorway, neither quite in nor out, talking the way they had online, but with voices and expressions, and the vulnerability that comes with physical presence. Ethan explained his anxiety, how it felt like a physical wall between him and the world, how online interaction was the only place he felt capable of genuine connection. Maya shared her journey through disability, her feeling of being erased from normal life, her fear that no one would ever see past her wheelchair to the person she still was inside. As the afternoon sun slanted through the hallway windows, something shifted between them. Maya reached out and took Ethan's hand, feeling the reality of his presence in a way that months of digital conversation couldn't match. She told him she was angry he hadn't been honest, but she understood why. She told him that fear makes people do complicated things, and maybe they were both guilty of hiding behind screens because real life felt too dangerous. She also told him that if they were going to really try this, they had to do it in the real world, not just the digital one. What if this story has touched your heart? If you believe in the power of honesty and healing, please take a moment to comment below with a heart emoji. Tell us about a time when courage changed your life. Your stories inspire us to keep sharing these narratives of hope and connection. The weeks that followed were not easy. Real-world relationships require courage that online connections don't. Ethan had to learn to sit with his anxiety instead of avoiding it, to show up at Maya's door even when his brain screamed at him to retreat. Maya had to learn to trust again, to believe that someone could see her disability and choose to stay anyway, not out of pity but out of genuine love. They had coffee dates where Ethan's hand shook so badly he could barely hold his cup. They had movie nights where Maya's insecurities about being too much work threatened to overwhelm her. But they also had moments of profound beauty. Ethan reading aloud to Maya from her favorite books, his voice steady in a way it never was in other social situations. Maya teaching Ethan that presence matters more than perfection, that showing up scared is braver than not showing up at all. They learned that love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone whose brokenness fits with yours, whose scars tell a story that makes sense alongside your own. 6 months after that first knock on her door, Maya and Ethan sat together in the small community garden behind their apartment building. Ethan had been working on his anxiety through therapy and was now able to have conversations with their neighbors without feeling like his chest might explode. Maya had started a blog about life with disability, finding her voice and her purpose in helping others feel less alone. They'd learned that healing isn't linear, that there would still be hard days, but that facing those days together made them bearable in a way facing them alone never could. As they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Maya leaned her head on Ethan's shoulder and thought about the strange journey that brought them together. She thought about how loneliness had driven them both online, searching for connection in a digital world because the real one felt too harsh, too judgmental, too scary. She thought about how sometimes the person you're looking for is closer than you think, just on the other side of fear and hesitation. She thought about how love has a way of finding us, even when we're hiding. Especially when we're hiding. The story of the girl who found out her online crush was her neighbor became something more than a tale of coincidence. It became a story about courage, about the ways we protect ourselves from pain and, in doing so, sometimes protect ourselves from joy. It became a story about seeing and being seen, about the miracle of finding someone who understands your particular brand of broken and loves you not despite it but including it, as part of the complete picture of who you are. As darkness fell and fairy lights twinkled to life around the garden, Maya and Ethan sat together in comfortable silence, no longer needing words to feel connected. They'd learned that sometimes the greatest love stories don't start with love at first sight, but with the courage to be vulnerable, to be honest, to show up as your full, imperfect, beautiful self and trust that it will be enough. And in their case, it was more than enough. It was everything.